Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
Exploring the unexplained,
breaking down barriers,
putting the macabre under the microscope,
dissecting the disturbing,
seeking out the sinister,
bringing you the jinkies and the jump scares.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Freaky Friday. This is your host Megan, along with Devin.
Hey guys.
And this week we invite you to join us because we are going to be diving into the very scary world of cults.
Dum dum dum.
And I know this is an episode you've been waiting for.
I know, I've been so excited about this one, and it's probably not the best thing to tell people that I'm excited about cults, but...
I had the opposite reaction. I'm a little nervous about this one.
I'm not excited about cults. I'm excited by the idea of
opinionated on it.
Yes, there we go. Megan's got it. I was just digging myself a hole there. Thank you for digging me out.
And I think we both have one cult in mind, which we'll dive into the details on a bit later. But I think we should just start off with what are cults?
Yeah.
And what characterizes them? How do you avoid them? What do you look out for?
What are the warning signs of your local cult?
Well, legitimately, with the amount of people that get roped into these things unknowingly.
Yeah.
It's a good topic.
It's true.
And I think each cult will typically have a charismatic, unaccountable leader.
Yeah, that's always the word people go for. Charismatic.
Exactly. And they will generally, in one or multiple ways, exploit their members, whether it's economically, whether it's sexually, just in some way they generally end up exploiting their members.
And sort of go for their vulnerabilities in order to lure them in.
Exactly. That forms part of they've got a whole list of tactics that they use to lure people in. But there's actually different kinds of cults. Everyone, I think, automatically assumes it's religious.
Yeah. But
it's not necessary. There's several different kinds of cults that you can get roped into. And I think the most... everyone's already got this, with reason, very scared and apprehensive opinion when the word gets mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really get
no,
good cults.
Good cults. So most cults actually try and keep extremely small.
Yeah.
And that's because they're trying to stay under the radar. Unless they've committed a crime or done something that draws attention to them, they are generally trying to not draw attention to themselves.
I feel like that in itself is already a red flag, is it not?
That's the thing. There are so many of these. It's so easy to ask the question, how could you get roped into that? But when you listen to the ways in which they do it, it makes sense how they're very much targeting people who are not in the greatest frame of mind.
Yeah, true. And I think a lot of these cults also start off very, very tame, and it sort of just amps up slowly.
Well, that's exactly part of their methodology. And I'll get into that now. But it's easy to say, well, those are all red flags. Don't. It's a cult. But I think some general advice they've given out about looking out for cults is that you need to be aware of any kind of pressure. That's a main element in cults. It's the single most important unit or method they have. It's applying constant pressure to you. So if somebody's trying to pressure you into making a very quick decision about becoming involved in anything intense, be alert. That's a very big warning.
Just realized I'm probably so susceptible to being inducted into a cult because I'm one of those people where someone will ask me to do something and I'll be like, no, it's not really my vibe or whatever. And if they pressure me, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you would be a really good target. That's not a good thing, Devin.
Well, now I'm a little more aware of it.
Another flag is any leader who is going to proclaim him or herself as having special powers or special insight, like some kind of divinity.
Yeah.
Generally, the groups are closed, so it'll have sort of an inner circle that follows the leader without question. And like I said, they maintain secrecy.
And that's probably also what makes it a little bit more alluring. It's this secret, I want in on it sort of thing, you know?
Exactly. And like I said, they will use so many different methods, all deceptive means, to typically try to recruit new members. And once recruited, then the subject and it's the members of the organization. They sort of the word that is generally, I think, used in the situation is they start brainwashing.
Yeah.
That's how they manipulate your thoughts. They manipulate everything that you do. It is a type of brainwashing. And yeah, like I said, they generally will exploit their members. And it's just, I think there's also one point that they will keep driving into your head that if you leave the cult, bad things are going to happen to you, which is how they get you to stay.
Sort of like ruling by fear.
It's completely ruling by fear. Yeah. That is their whole just take on it. So yeah, there's I think everyone's heard about some cults out in the world. There's Scientology, there's Charles Manson, there's what we'll talk about later.
No spoilers.
Okay.
No spoilers.
No, okay. Moving on. So like I said, there's different kinds of cults. You've got your religious cults, and those are sort of people who have come up with their own belief system that's not sort of considered orthodox. There's commercial cults, and those are people, they're sort of called cults of greed. And if you join them, they sort of convince you by saying, if you join them and follow this special program for success, then you will become rich too. Doesn't that sound familiar? How many of those out
That's
there,
why I'm laughing.
Exactly. And then they'll hold their leader up as an example and say, he made so much money by doing this, and if you do this, you will reach the same.
You'll get to his level.
Exactly. So yeah, those are cults. Then there's also like self-help and counseling cults, and those are sort of along the same lines, where they're like self-improvement. And those are generally targeted at businessmen and corporations and companies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's something to be quite aware of. It's not just necessarily religious groups and beliefs that can form these things and that can ultimately ruin people's lives.
Yeah, but also going back to like the religious cult thing, it's also not necessarily always like a new religion. They sometimes sort of springboard off of other religions.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
There's also even political cults. And I mean, we know this from like Nazi Germany and Stalin's communist USSR. It's like even the smaller scales of like black and white supremacists and terrorists and rebel groups, those all fall into the same category.
Yeah.
And like I said, the mind control is like the main psychological technique that cult leaders will attempt to use to control their members. It does not turn people into like robots, I think, like movies kind of tend to portray.
Yeah.
But it is a very heavy influence that keeps cult members sort of in the state of where they can't really do anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, the cult members will usually need to recruit and operate using deception because their true practices and beliefs beforehand would never actually gain any members. That's why that their main sort of ultimate belief system and the things they do is never ever displayed to you beforehand.
Yeah.
Like I think you mentioned that earlier, actually.
Yeah, it sort of starts off very, very chilled and normal, and then
they need to hide that truth from you until they think you're ready to accept it.
Like you're so invested that you're not going to question the weird stuff that's being presented to you.
Yeah, nobody's going to come up to you and say, join us, who wear strange clothes and get castrated and then drink poison.
It sounds delightful. Where do I sign?
They'll usually have these really well slicked like public relations front, which each member's sort of like taught, and it's like drilled into them how to act. Also, that's the other thing. All the cult members you'll see, they'll be super happy and they'll be like the ideal what you want to be. You'll look at them and say, how do I get like that? How do I have such a happy life and that? But never is that actually true. It's like been proven that all of those images they project are completely false. Nobody's actually feeling that way. And yeah, they need to make you believe that there's nowhere else you can go, there's no one else you can go to, that they are your new family, the ones you can trust, and that they sort of make you completely dependent on them.
I don't know if this is something you're going to touch on, but I do know that also a lot of cults sort of get you to spill your deepest, darkest secrets to them.
Exactly.
And
use that as a blackmail.
Yeah, hold that over your head so you can't leave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also they sort of create this thought where that the cult leader or the whole leadership is to be feared, like you said. To just disagree with their leadership is like you're going against God, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty much like the leaders will claim to have direct authority from God to control all of the aspects of your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some of the other techniques they use. There's guilt character assassination and breaking sessions. So what this basically means is it could never be that the program isn't working or those new recruits have valid reasons for not joining. Anybody who's not in your cult, they don't even focus on those. They focus on if you're a member and you wanting to leave, then you are wrong and you need to try so much harder. And
yeah,
like I said,
it's your fault, it's not the cult's fault.
Exactly.
Basically.
And yeah, they'll make you feel so guilty. And yeah, character assassination is sort of like a type of false reasoning which they use by people in groups when they have no real arguments. So, for example, if I said to you, Devon, 1 + 1 = 3.
I mean, I'm no mathematician, but that's wrong.
But then if I replied to you and said, well, you know what, through like Fibonacci's method of this and this and that, and I explain it to you, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's true.
So gaslighting, basically.
So what character assassination is if you, say, responded to be like, no, it's 2. And I said to you, well, Devon, I've been a mathematician far longer than you have. How dare you disagree with me?
Be like, okay.
You're obviously a very smug and prideful person. And now that I think about it, you've got a lot of other problems, and I start sort of like tearing you apart like that.
Okay, Megan, I'll stay in your cult. Wow.
So they've got all these really scary ways of keeping people in cults. And like I said, there's so much information. I've touched the top of the peak of what all there is.
Yeah.
But I think just for time's sake, we should dive into the big secret you have been keeping.
Drum roll, please. We're like, when we discussed, you know, okay, we're going to do an episode on cults, one of the first ones that came to mind was the Jonestown Massacre and Jim Jones's cult, which was the People's something.
The People's Temple.
People's Temple, yes. There we go. Yeah, so this was very much a religious cult started by Jim Jones, who in the early days started out as a self-ordained minister in Indianapolis. But he very much wanted to start his own church. So he had all these, you know, crazy money-making schemes. I believe one of them was to go door to door and sell live monkeys. I don't know how true that is, but it did come up in my research. And this guy, he was crazy.
He was crazy.
So,
that's the thing. I can believe it so easily.
Yeah. Like, I'm not questioning it.
Neither will I.
Definitely sold live monkeys. But anyway, one of the big pulls of his cult, I almost said his church, his cult, was that it was very like racially integrated, which was unusual during the times for like a Midwestern church. So that's what pulled in so many members. And
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess it's, you know, something different to everything else around you.
Yeah. And I mean, they ended up with something like 20,000 members.
It's pretty, yeah.
Though, I mean, okay, so they started out in Indianapolis, and then apparently the church moved to Northern California, and then San Francisco, and they opened up another church in LA. So it was quite spread out.
Yeah.
But they had about 20,000 members. And, you know, sort of everything went all right for a while, and then at one point, some of the former members claimed that they were sort of forced to give up their belongings, their homes, sometimes custody of their children.
See, that's like, it's times like this where you're like, you're in a cult, how can you not see that?
Yeah, so, I mean, things were already a bit hairy at this point. People said that they were also being like subjected to beatings when they sort of challenged his authority or anything like that. And another one of the weird things that he did is he faked these like staged cancer healings, which I mean
Well, you see there, somebody pretending to be this divine
yeah. And it's
being.
also like you're playing with people's emotions, you know, like
playing with so much. But that's, like I said, that's their whole thing. Their whole dynamic is to control you in absolutely every aspect.
yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, like if one of your family members had cancer and there's this person saying like, oh, I can cure them, like
Why wouldn't you run there? It's such a hopeless disease that you need any hope you can get. So you can see it.
yeah. But I mean, after these claims of like, you know, having to give up their belongings and homes and children and all of this stuff, the People's Temple started to gain a lot of negative media attention, and that's when Jim Jones decided they were going to up and move to Guyana. I'm going to butcher this.
I think it is.
Guyana?
Yes, I agree. Yeah, Guyana.
Okay, if I'm butchering that, forgive me. So they up and moved to Guyana.
Which was this little town in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't even a town, actually. They made it into a town.
Yeah, it was a little settlement, I guess. But I think one of the main selling points for them to move there was that like the official language was English of Guyana, so they were like, okay, cool, we can speak in English, great.
Well, also, I know he proclaimed that the destination was like an agricultural commune that was rich with food, and it was the perfect temperature, and there were no snakes, there were no mosquitoes. He sort of painted this picture of this paradise.
Okay, wrong.
But that's exactly it. They arrived there and the conditions in Jonestown were so grim because the soil was too thin to grow anything. There were definitely snakes, there were definitely mosquitoes. You're in the middle of the jungle, for goodness sake.
I was gonna say, like, I remember reading them saying that they were immediately like, you know, there was disease, they were being attacked by mosquitoes.
Exactly,
like,
and the temperatures were so unbearably hot.
Yeah.
So it was nothing like he promised.
Yeah, so I think he managed to get about 1,000 people to move there with him.
A shocking amount.
Yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, he told them they were going to build this socialist utopia in Guyana. But yeah, like you said, he basically sold it to them as like this paradise. And when they got there, like you said, very much the opposite. And they were sort of
They had to do all this
hard
backbreaking
labor.
work. Exactly.
Yeah. And so they'd be in the fields all day, you know, breaking their backs, and then
Well, that was on purpose, actually. He was trying to keep, because that's also like a classic thing cult leaders will do, but he was definitely keeping them that busy on purpose so that they don't have time to sort of plan a revolt. They don't have time to even just have negative thoughts about their career. I don't know how you wouldn't,
Yeah.
but it's a method of not giving your members time to get into their head to think things through.
Oh, okay. But I do know that also during this time, like, again, I think I said it earlier, if they ever questioned his authority, he would just lose it and they'd suffer like the most horrendous punishments.
Yeah, I read that too. He's really big on his punishments.
Yeah. I don't know exactly. I know I read something about beatings, but I don't know what any of the other stuff
I don't
was.
know the details of what the punishments were, but I know they were bad.
Yeah. But then at one point, I think it was a family member of one of the People's Temple members became like increasingly concerned about what was going on, because he would also he would censor their phone calls and their letters, and you know there wasn't much communication with the outside world.
There wasn't any.
Yeah.
He cut them off completely. That was, I think, also behind him moving everyone out there. He was trying to cut them off completely.
Yeah. So like a concerned family member, I think of one of the People's Temple followers, got a group of people together. I think one was a senator or...
Yeah, Senator Ryan or something.
Someone Ryan,
like that.
yeah. Went to him and was like, hey, we got to go there, check this place out. So it was him, a couple members of the media, I think some of the family members, and they went out to Guyana to go check this place out and were welcomed pretty...
Yes, first of all, the thought that, when Jones heard he was coming, he was like completely put out because he knew this was going to cause trouble. But weeks before they arrived, he had his members practicing like songs and dances, and had them reciting like answers to questions. Like if the senator were to ask, what did you eat, they would say, we'd eat lamb. It was like every day, like we'd eat lamb and we'd eat this, and to paint this proper picture, he had them rehearse every single day up until their arrival.
Oh wow, didn't even read about that.
And I mean, he enforced this rule. Jones enforced this rule throughout the town, where his voice was played over a PA system.
Okay.
I'm not even joking. The whole system was rigged throughout the whole community. No one was allowed to talk. You had to listen to his sort of teachings just throughout the day, all day, every day. And this also goes back to him not giving people the opportunity to plot about how to get out of Jonestown. And yeah.
Well, I mean, it's impossible to think straight when you've got someone speaking constantly.
It's also got to be such a daunting thing, because he's like always over your shoulder, always watching over everything.
Yeah.
And also by being tuned into everything around him, that was how he sort of kept track of everything that was going on within the commune.
Oh my, it's so scary. But yeah, back to the little visit by the senator and media personnel. As far as I know, they were welcomed. They were brought in like, yeah, sure, come on in. And like you said, sort of put on this whole charade for them.
Yeah, they were.
So while they were there, everything seemed fine and dandy. But apparently a couple members of the temple went to them and said, like, listen, we want out.
I know. That's what I came across as well. Somebody or one or two people managed to actually sort of sneak a message to him and say, help.
Yeah, get
Things
us
aren't
out.
good. Yeah.
So I can't remember if they did try to get them out when they left, or so, I mean, obviously something got back to Jim Jones, because when they were trying to leave, a bunch of the members came out with guns and started.
Yeah. So what I heard was Jones found out, because he tapped in everywhere. He found out that this message was slipped through to this Leo Ryan guy, and he got angry. He got angry at them, and he said, "Get out."
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
So that leads up to the whole airplane strip, where they were all standing around getting ready to leave, with the intention, obviously, of coming back to help. And suddenly this van pulls up with all these thugs in it with guns, and they start firing at everyone.
And I think, as far as I know, they managed to kill Leo Ryan.
Quite a few of them.
Yeah, it was Leo Ryan, a cameraman from NBC, I think, a photographer, and a female People's Temple member. I think those were the people that were killed.
I think so too.
But I mean, after this went down, Jones apparently, I think over the intercom system that you were talking about, told his followers that soldiers were going to come and torture them or something.
And he knew by then, well...
Yeah, like all hell's about to break loose.
Yes. I think he that's what he said in motion. I think they called it the White Knight, and he set that in motion.
Oh, wow. But yeah, so he basically told them, like, these soldiers are coming to torture you, and ordered everyone to the main pavilion to what he called commit a revolutionary act.
Well, yeah, he actually told them it's time to transcend into the next place.
Yeah, almost like it was all part of his plan all along.
Exactly.
And this is where it gets really upsetting, I guess, really sad, is that basically what they did is they mixed a whole bunch of cool drink.
Kool-Aid. Grape-flavored Kool-Aid.
Yeah, so they mixed a whole bunch of Kool-Aid, and then they put in, like you said, cyanide and sedatives, I believe. And they originally brought all the children forward first and gave it to them through syringes.
Oh, I didn't hear the syringes part.
I think not like into their bloodstream, but into their mouth.
People who didn't willingly take it, they did inject it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But yeah, they definitely did the children first.
Yeah, so they killed, I think, a third of the people there were children.
Yeah, they were.
A third of the people killed were children. So yeah, fed the cyanide mixture to the children. Then all the adults took it. Anyone who didn't take it, you said, got injected with it.
Or they were shot, because that's the thing. He made people think it was a choice.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a choice, because standing behind them and in front of them were all of these, like, in a circle with guns pointed at them. So they didn't have a choice.
Yeah. So, and I think we were also discussing it earlier. We were trying to figure out how Jim Jones himself died, and I think we established that he ended up shooting himself.
I would say that, because I never came across a clear definition. I would say he either shot himself or he had somebody else shoot him.
Yeah. So there was that, and I think it ended up being like 909 people.
Yes.
And it was the biggest loss of American lives.
It was an entire town of like dead bodies. That's what the authorities walked into.
Yeah, I actually read like a line when I was researching that described it, I think, so perfectly, is that when they walked in, the floor was carpeted with dead bodies.
It's an entire town that you have managed to convince to kill themselves.
Yeah.
And there's apparently, because he kept all the PA systems running and he was recording everything, they call it the death tape. So the tapes exist of that night. That was how the authorities managed to piece together what happened, because there weren't really any witnesses.
Well, I was actually going to say, like, I mean, it's very, very morbid, but there are actually images online of just the bodies lying all over the field. It's
There's actually
devastating.
tapes, recordings of the entire night, listening to how it played out, and they said it's awful. I mean, it's available to listen, and I don't know if I would recommend. I don't think I would be able to listen to it.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
they say you can hear like children talking in the background, and that you can hear the things Jones says, and then you can suddenly hear the children suddenly starting to scream and things going to, like, you can listen to the entire night played out, and that's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you can see the images if you go online, and that in itself is like heartbreaking to me. I can't imagine having to like listen to the entire thing.
No, I wouldn't be able
play
to.
out.
But that's the scary reality of the power that a cult can have over like tons of people.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely terrifying, but again, I think we say this most of the time. There are so many other stories out there that we just don't have the time to cover. So, go research yourselves. There's so many crazy things out there.
Very scary things.
But yeah, we enjoyed researching this topic. We hope you enjoyed listening to it. And we will catch you next week when we talk about
some phenomenal phenomena.
Freaky Fridays, hosted by Devin Beatty
and Megan Portnoy, and produced with the generous assistance of Janu Blau
and Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.